Hi, and welcome to Historical Influence. Here, we explore amazing stories of people and events that shaped our history. Join us to learn, discover, and get inspired by the past in a fun and engaging way.
Benjamin Franklin, 1706 to 1790, remains one of the most influential figures in American history, often called the first American. He was a true polymath, an inventor, scientist, printer, politician, and diplomat. Franklin shaped the American ethos. His pervasive influence is so profound that he is sometimes jokingly referred to as the only president of the United States who was never president of the United States. Franklin was born in Boston, in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He helped draft both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, and successfully negotiated the 1783 Treaty of Paris, which ended the Revolutionary War. His scientific pursuits, particularly his groundbreaking investigations into electricity, made him a major figure in the history of physics and the American Enlightenment. He is globally recognized for his work. The French economist Turgot famously praised Franklin with the quote, "Eripituic fulmen coelo mox sceptra tyrannis," meaning, he snatched lightning from the sky and the scepter from tyrants. Franklin's impact is still visible today. His likeness adorns the $100 bill. He also played a key role in founding the school that would eventually become the University of Pennsylvania. This is the story of a man who, despite a lack of formal training, harnessed curiosity and intellect to revolutionize technology, society, and governance.
Benjamin Franklin was born on January 17, 1706, in Boston. He was the 15th of his father Josiah Franklin's 17 children, and the youngest son of Josiah and his second wife, Abiah Folger. Josiah was a soap and candle maker. Despite being considered the most brilliant American of his age, Franklin only received 2 years of formal schooling at the Boston Latin School and a private academy. His formal education ended by age 10, when he was put to work full-time in his father's cash-strapped candle and soap shop. At age 12, he was apprenticed to his older brother, James, who owned a printing shop. Young Benjamin, who felt mistreated and frequently beaten by his brother, voraciously pursued self-education. He spent what little money he earned on books, often going without food to afford new volumes. He practiced his writing skills by reading essays and rewriting them from memory. When his brother James founded the weekly newspaper, the New England Courant, 16-year-old Franklin began secretly submitting popular essays and commentary under the pseudonym Silence Dogood, a fictitious widow. After writing 14 essays and eventually unmasking himself, he fled Boston in 1723, settling in Philadelphia, which would remain his lifelong adopted home. He arrived in the city practically penniless.
After arriving in Philadelphia, Franklin quickly established himself as a successful printer. By 1729, he became the publisher of the Pennsylvania Gazette. Under his ownership, the struggling newspaper was transformed into the most widely read paper in the colonies, and soon began turning a profit. Even after achieving fame as a scientist and statesman, Franklin habitually signed his letters with the modest title, B. Franklin, Printer. In 1732, Franklin launched his famous annual periodical, Poor Richard's Almanac, publishing it for 25 consecutive years. Using the pseudonym Richard Saunders, the almanac contained weather forecasts, poetry, astronomical information, and, most famously, his witty maxims and proverbs, such as, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." In 1758, he collected the best of this advice into the renowned essay titled The Way to Wealth. Franklin retired from the printing business in 1748 at the age of 42 to become a gentleman of leisure. allowing him to dedicate himself to public service and scientific research for the remaining 42 years of his life. His passion for civic improvement led him to establish key institutions in Philadelphia. In 1727, he founded the Junto, a discussion group for aspiring tradesmen focused on self-improvement. This group quickly led to the incorporation of America's first subscription library, the Library Company of Philadelphia, in 1731. He also organized the Union Fire Company in 1736, one of the first volunteer firefighting companies in America, and co-founded the Pennsylvania Hospital in 1751, the first hospital in the colonies.
Following his retirement from printing, Franklin became a prolific inventor and scientist. Critically, he never patented his creations, believing they should freely benefit humankind. Around 1740, he invented the Franklin stove, which provided more heat while using less fuel. He also developed the flexible catheter and the rocking chair. Frustrated by needing to switch between reading glasses and long-distance spectacles, Franklin developed what he called double spectacles, now known as bifocals. He revealed this design in a letter dated May 23, 1785. He noted how useful they were for a diplomat dining out, allowing him to see both his food and the expressions of those across the table. Franklin's most famous scientific pursuits concerned electricity. In 1752, he conducted the celebrated kite and key experiment, demonstrating that lightning was a form of electricity. This directly led to his invention of the lightning rod, which was installed on major Philadelphia buildings, including the Pennsylvania State House, by 1752. He also coined many terms fundamental to electrical science, such as battery, charge, and conductor. Among his more unusual inventions was the glass harmonica, 1761, a musical instrument made of spinning glass bowls. Franklin wrote that the glass harmonica gave him the greatest personal satisfaction of all his inventions. Composers including Mozart, Beethoven, and Strauss later composed music for it. Furthermore, as deputy postmaster, Franklin became interested in ocean currents, charting and naming the Gulf Stream current in 1770. This knowledge eventually helped cut 2 weeks off the sailing time from Europe to North America. He was also an avid swimmer, pioneering wooden hand paddles, and is an honorary inductee into the International Swimming Hall of Fame.
Franklin served in several public roles long before the Revolution. In 1753, he was appointed Deputy Postmaster General of British North America, a position he held until 1774. During his tenure, he reorganized the postal service, improving delivery speed and achieving the colonial post office's first profits by 1761. During the rising imperial crisis, Franklin, who had lived in London for several years and held royal appointments, initially argued for peaceful compromise and preservation of the empire. He was a reluctant revolutionary, once writing that every encroachment on rights is not worth a rebellion. He even denounced the Boston Tea Party as an act of violent injustice on our part. However, his views changed after he was publicly humiliated by Solicitor General Alexander Wetherburn in 1774, leading to his dismissal as Deputy Postmaster General. He returned to Philadelphia in 1775 as a dedicated patriot. He was immediately elected as a delegate to the Second Continental Congress. In 1776, he was one of 5 men appointed to draft the Declaration of Independence, and he signed the final document. Tragically, the revolution permanently divided his family. His illegitimate son, William Franklin, whom Benjamin had helped secure the position of Royal Governor of New Jersey, remained a staunch loyalist. William called the Patriots intemperate zealots. Benjamin Franklin never forgave his son for taking up arms against him and cut him almost entirely out of his will. In October 1776, Franklin was dispatched to France as commissioner. Already world-renowned for his lightning experiments, he became a celebrity in Paris, charming the French elite. He capitalized on the French conception of Americans as rustic frontiersmen by dressing simply and wearing a fur cap, which became his trademark. His adept diplomacy was slow, but secured the crucial Treaty of Alliance and Treaty of Amity and Commerce in 1778. He remained in France until 1785, where he successfully negotiated and signed the Treaty of Paris in 1783, officially ending the Revolutionary War.
Franklin's interest extended deeply into moral and social philosophy. He believed that the survival of the new republic depended on the virtue of its citizens. At age 20, in 1726, he developed a detailed plan to cultivate his character using 13 virtues, including temperance, industry, and humility. Imitate Jesus and Socrates. He devoted 1 week to perfecting each virtue, believing that the effort made him a better man, contributing greatly to his success. Regarding religion, Franklin was raised by pious Puritans, but he later classified himself as a deist. He believed in God as the source of morality and goodness, and that the most acceptable service of God was the doing good to man. While he doubted the divinity of Jesus, he thought the system of morals Christ left was the best the world ever saw. He was a strong advocate for religious tolerance, noting that he never refused contributions to build new places of worship, regardless of the sect. He also strongly supported freedom of speech, writing early in his career, "Without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech." Franklin's views on slavery underwent a significant evolution. Although he owned several enslaved people early in his life, he later considered the institution inherently evil and freed his enslaved people in the 1760s. Later, he became a strong abolitionist, serving as president of the Pennsylvania Society for Promoting the Abolition of Slavery in 1787. In 1790, shortly before his death, he presented a petition to the U.S. Congress, urging the end of slavery and the slave trade.
Franklin returned from France in 1785. He was elected president of the Supreme Executive Council of Pennsylvania, effectively serving as governor for 3 years until 1788, the constitutional limit. In 1787, at the age of 81, he was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. Although he seldom engaged in debate, he played a critical role in unifying the delegates and helped fashion the Great Compromise, which resolved disputes over legislative representation. Franklin holds the unique distinction of being the only person to have signed the 3 foundational documents of the United States: the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Paris, 1783, and the U.S. Constitution. Franklin died in Philadelphia on April 17, 1790, at age 84. He had suffered from gout and died from a pleuritic attack. Approximately 20,000 people attended his funeral, the largest the city had ever seen. Upon receiving news of his death, the Constitutional Assembly in revolutionary France entered a period of mourning. In his will, Franklin bequeathed 2,000 pounds sterling, splitting the money between his birthplace, Boston, and his adopted home, Philadelphia. The caveat was unusual. The funds were held in trust for 200 years, to be used initially only to provide loans to local tradesmen. By 1990, the funds had accumulated substantial value,
reaching millions of dollars. These monies were later used to finance important educational institutions, including the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia and the Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology in Boston.
Franklin's enduring legacy is based on his dedication to applying reason, fostering civic duty, and continuous self-improvement. He demonstrated that success was achievable through industry, intellect, and virtue, illuminating many corners of American life. A self-taught man who never finished school, he became a global leader in both science and political philosophy. His commitment to rational problem-solving is exemplified by his enduring method for decision-making, the pro and con list. In a letter to Joseph Priestley in 1772, Franklin described how he would divide a sheet of paper to list all opposing motives, estimating their respective weights and striking out points of equal force to clearly see where the balance lies. Franklin showed that resourcefulness, ingenuity, and civic virtue are foundational elements of the national character, forever earning him the title of the first American.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that shaped our world.